Hello everyone. I hope you had a wonderful Pesach and a good week. It was really lovely seeing so many back in shul over Yom Tov and to see the shul so full once again. And I really enjoyed being able to address the community several times live from the pulpit over the last days of Yom Tov. I want to take this chance to wish a massive Mazal Tov to Justin and Louise Lanzkron on Noah's Bar Mitzvah this week. Justin and Louise, we wish you much Halakhas from all your lovely family, and I look forward to addressing Noah on Shabbat live when we celebrate together his Bar Mitzvah in Shul. This week's Sedra includes the Halakhas, the laws of kashrut, of kosher foods that we can and cannot eat. And this is primarily a chok. Whilst it's important to understand the reasons behind some mitzvahs, as I mentioned when I spoke to the community over Yom Tov, and we discussed a little bit the idea of chok, there are other mitzvahs that we do without understanding. And on one level, this is because halacha is about submission. It's important for us human beings to know that we don't know everything. Otherwise, one ends up with human hubris, with arrogance, where we think that we know the answers to everything, where we know the truth, with a capital T, all the hidden secrets of life. And this leads to a fundamentalism of sorts. The idea that we have all the answers, that we are in absolute control, that we know the secret inner workings of the universe, which in its secular form can take the nature of the extreme ideologies, fascism or communism, where we understand the hidden secret workings of the universe. And sadly, religion can also be misused and abused in this way. And the idea of chok, on one level, is to remind us that no matter what spiritual insights we hope to achieve, we nonetheless certainly don't know everything. But there's another aspect to kashrus also. It's interesting that the laws of kashrus are given at this point in time. If we think through the sequence of events that have led up to it, the Jewish people have left Egypt, they've finally built the Mishkan, they're now ready to embark on their journey with the sanctuary there in their midst. At that point, the laws of kashrus are given to them, really at the start of their national journey, interjected at this point in the narrative of the Torah. And this parallels, in a sense, the first time rules of kashrus or eating regulations were given to humanity, which was after the creation of Adam and Chava, because of course the first mitzvah, the first commandment given to them, was also about what they can and cannot eat in that context. The eating of the Eitz Hadas, the tree of knowledge, which of course is another story to itself. And what this seems to indicate is that these are halachas about a very primal and basic part of human existence. Almost the most basic aspect of our existence is reproduction and eating. And both of these, whilst absolutely vital to our survival, also can become a focus of human existence. They can become the center of a hedonistic, materialistic lifestyle in which these are solely viewed as pleasures to be pursued. And therefore it's vital for this to be regulated. We don't go the direction of asceticism and a monastic lifestyle when we're meant to remove ourselves from this world. We emphasize the fact that we are embodied neshamas, that we are physical beings who attempt to merge the spiritual and the physical to sanctify these basic human functions and needs. And therefore this is also a key element to the laws of kashrus, regulating and introducing kedusha and sanctity into our lives. But there are also specific symbolism that perhaps we can understand behind some of the more detailed rules of kashrus. These aren't sufficient to be reasons, but they certainly help us to relate to the halakhas and perhaps give us something to reflect upon as we keep them. Firstly, the kosher animals are not predators. They are all peace-loving animals. Now, there's no reason to be a victim, but it's certainly the better of the two. As Golda Meir famously said, whilst we can forgive our enemies for killing our children, we can't forgive them for causing us to kill theirs. And therefore the Torah tells us we eat the peace-loving animals rather than the predators. The animals that are kosher also need to chew the cud. The biology of chewing the cud actually remains still a little unclear. There's several stomachs which the animal eating the food, the grass, uses to digest one after the other. The food goes down into the stomach and then back up again and then is redigested. The mechanism is not fully understood, exactly how the animal knows where it's up to in the cycle and which stomach to direct the food into. But this perhaps teaches us to think about the value of reflection, of patience, reconsidering, digesting, revisiting ideas, and being a reflective person. To be kosher, to be the sort of food and the sort of life we should want to be, we need to chew the cud, we need to pause, we need to think about what we're doing, and indeed about what we're eating. Pigs eat anything. I remember recently a visit to a farm, and there was a bird's nest above the pigsty in this farm, and unfortunately a fledgling fell out of the nest into the sty, and the story didn't end well. And the idea of reflecting and considering how we ingest and what we do with our lives is certainly an important lesson. There's also the second sign of being a kosher animal, the split hooves. And Kabbalah sees this symbolically as indicating to us that all walking must be nuanced. And the split hooves indicate that we head off in life in slightly different directions, slightly different paths, and need to find a balance in how we stride forward. Kabbalah says this is specifically about chesed and din. This chesed, which is the idea of being all-embracive, including everything in our consciousness, embracing and engaging fully, and then din, which is about stricter standards of justice, about the expectations that we hold for ourselves and others, and the standards that we live up to, which represents a narrowing of sorts. And we need to find that balance in every step we take. We need to consider our split hoof, the two roles we go. Are we getting that balance right between the chesed and the embracing and the inclusivity, and din, the knowing what the rights and wrongs are? But this can also end up as dangerous. We can be bifurcated and hypocritical with no clear values. And therefore this symbol needs to be combined with the chewing of the cud, with the digestion and reflection that we already mentioned, hence the need for both symbols. The pig holds out its paws, it says, I'm kosher. Look at me with my split hooves, but it doesn't chew the cud, it doesn't filter, it doesn't digest, it doesn't think and consider and reflect how it moves forward. So these are just some thoughts in the symbolism around kashrus and what it stands for. But I think there's another dimension here, one that I saw in the writings of Rabbi Sachs, based on the thinking of the Rambam. And we know that in many respects, the Torah teaches us that humans are at the center of the narrative. Humanity is created last, given dominion over all that lives. We're made in the image of Hashem. And this is the story of Bereshis and how central we are and our role is. But ultimately, the human being isn't the sole center of the universe. We're not the measure of all things. As the Rambam writes in his Moed Nevuchim, in the third section, he says, look at how vast the universe is, the dimensions and the great numbers of everything that is. He says, even on Earth itself, that there's a myriad of life forms. And we have to realize that humans are not always at the center. The prohibition of certain types of animals or insects or fish or birds is to remind us that the world isn't all ours. Much of it exists for its own sake or for reasons that are beyond human imagination. The vast universe and the vastness of Earth, we're not permitted to kill everything and anything. It isn't all ours. Some must be outside the realm of our domination, protected, given its freedom, granted its own authority, integrity, not subjected to our needs and our desires. And this is a final element or reflection in kashrus, an area of realization and reminder that we're not in complete control of everything that exists. So these are some thoughts around kashrus, and it's a wonderful thing that over the last decades there's been increased awareness of kashrut, dedication and raising of standards, but it still poses challenges. Sometimes it can be difficult to keep the laws of kashrus. And one area that I think is particularly still a challenge, because perhaps it's a little counterintuitive, it can be laborious, it can be confusing and leave us unsure about what to do, is that of checking for insects and bugs. It's difficult to know exactly how to keep these halakhas, to what extent to go There's a certain technical expertise needed, and it's something we can struggle with. As we said, kashrus is ultimately a chok. And I wanted, therefore, to use this opportunity to promote the London Bastin's kashrut chart for insects, for bug checking. They produced a simple and clear guide for each fruit and vegetable as to how they can be checked. If you look below in the description link underneath this recording, I've given a link to how you can download and see this chart for yourself. You can print it, stick it up on your fridge or freezer in your kitchen and refer to it. It's an incredible resource. Or you can also find it just by Googling KLBD bugs. But I really want to encourage all of us to take this step, this incredible resource, and to strengthen our kashrus observation yet further. And in doing so, as we perhaps struggle with this chok, we'll remind ourselves of these 4 messages that I mentioned. Hubris, the reminder of human limitations. We don't know all. We bow to Hashem and submit to His Torah. Newly created after the building of the Mishkan, or indeed as Adam and Chava, the first commands were given about eating, about food, controlling the most primal of human urges. Thirdly, the symbolism and messages of kashrut that we spoke about. And finally, Rav Sachs's idea, based on the Rambam, reminding us that the world isn't all ours, that the vast universe with its myriad of species has an integrity of its own beyond human control. I wish you all Shabbat Shalom, good Shabbos, and be well.